Part 12, how my boyfriend tried to murder me. So after months of making my life a living hell, randomly he decides that he wants to get back together with me. And me being a 16-year-old who was very impressionable and should have continued running for the hills and not giving him power, immediately fell back into an old habit of seeing that I was getting validation from him and wanting it to keep going. So I agreed to it because also I knew that that would mean he would stop making my life a living hell there. Even though it was spring of his senior year, it was his last year at school, he was almost going to be gone, and my brain did trick itself and think I liked him and think I wanted it. And so I agreed to get back together with him because I wanted to end the year right. He was going to go to a college that I knew of and knew I could see him at, and so I thought maybe this is the way our story is supposed to end. And he started being really nice to me again. It was like there was a big switch. And now I know that the switch was because he was no longer getting the reaction he wanted out of me when he was making my life a living hell because I was relieving him of his power. I wasn't giving him that much power when he was doing that. So he had to switch tactics and once again be nice to me so I would give him my power once again. But of course, one of his rules of us getting back together was that once again, I could no longer be friends with Tony. But if you remember, I invited Tony to come to my house with me over the summer for the first week of summer. So after boarding school, we were going to fly to DC together and stay with each other. And if you remember, last time he told me to not be friends with Tony, I did not listen to him because my relationship with Tony meant more to me than my fear of Alex. And so once again, in the back of my head, I thought I'm just going to figure out a way to sneak Tony there. So really early on, I was also figuring out ways to be sneaky, which would not be helpful for the way I became an addict in the future, but I was figuring out a way that I could continue to be friends with Tony, take him home with me, but enjoy my relationship with Alex at the time as much as I could while still living in fear. And this time, when Alex and I got back together, there were so many less of the power dynamics than there were before because I was operating at a little bit of a distance the whole time. I knew I could not give him the same amount of power that I gave him before because it never worked out for me in the right way. And so when I would get mad at him or when I would have a lot of feelings towards him, I would start writing all of those feelings down in my notes app rather than sending them to him, rather than letting him know I was ever having feelings. And I saw that it would work because he would start telling me how much he liked me, how much he missed me, when I would pull back. So that was another unfortunate pattern I was learning, was that the less I give someone, the more they will give me. So if I don't act like myself, I will get good results out of it. And again, I'm 16, impressionable, and so that's what I was learning, how a relationship went at the time. And we had moments that really seemed like things were actually kind of normal with us. Until, of course, summertime happened, and it was time for Tony and I to go back to DC. And somehow I could not let Alex find out about that, to the point that I made my parents drive the car around to a different part of campus to get Tony in the car, but I wouldn't tell anyone why because I was too scared of anyone finding out about why I was being so sneaky with Tony at that point, which again is just unfair to all of the parties involved. And Tony ended up coming home with me, and at the beginning, Alex did not find out. And it seemed to have all gone smoothly. Tony and I were having a great time in DC without Alex knowing, until one day Alex randomly asked me what my address was so he could send me a gift. As soon as I told him the address, he just responded, "Fuck you." And I knew he knew somehow.